So, it's been a while. I know. I uploaded my last video on December 31st of 2021, and it is currently, well, it's February, almost the middle of February. Yeah, I haven't uploaded anything. I know. I did want to do, now, you guys probably wondering, hey Owen, didn't you say the fact that you were going to have this new thing in which you were going to review stuff at the end of the month now? How come you didn't review anything for January? Well, let me tell you. That's only because one thing released in January this year, and that was the new Scream movie. Yes, I do still intend to cover that movie, although I have a different idea about how I might want to cover it. The idea that I've had is just, I'll take a lot of the horror movies that are going to be coming out later on this year, and I'm going to save them for October, so it could be like the horrors of 2021 film edition or whatever, in which I just lump together most, if not all, of the horror movies that are releasing in 2021, and then I'll just review all of them in just one giant video like that. It'll be like my big horror Halloween special or something like that, but yeah. So, to make up for that, I'm going to be releasing this video here. And of course, as you can clearly tell by the Return of the Jedi DVD that I have placed in the background, it's going to be Star Wars related, but not just any Star Wars project. I'm going to be talking about the latest installment in the ongoing saga of The Mandalorian, aka its first spin-off show, The Book of Boba Fett. Now, The Book of Boba Fett released on its first episode released on December 29th, 2021, with its last episode releasing on February 9th. It released on February 9th of 2022. And it is the first spin-off, as previously mentioned, of The Mandalorian. In fact, it takes place right after the events of The Mandalorian Season 2. Jon Favreau once again serves as creator on board, and he wrote all the episodes, except for episode 6, which he co-wrote with Dave Filoni. And then, obviously, of course, we have Temuera Morrison reprising his role of Boba Fett, and we also have Ming-Na reprising her role of Fennec Shand. And also, of course, we got other people, like, obviously, Pedro Pascal ends up appearing later on in the show as the Mandalorian, as Din Djarin. And we see a couple of other faces from other parts of the Star Wars universe end up popping up in later episodes, but we'll get to that when we'll get to that. Now, Boba Fett has always been a Star Wars character that I have really liked the character of Boba Fett. I thought he had a really cool design. I thought he looked really, really cool. The fact that he was this cool outlaw bounty hunter kind of man with no name kind of vibe to him was really cool. But obviously, of course, as the years have since gone on, we have gotten to know more and more about him, and with it, obviously, of course, the mystery of who exactly Boba Fett is kind of dwindles. Now we know the fact that he's actually the son, or rather clone, of a famous bounty hunter named Jango Fett. We know the fact that, his father was killed by Mace Windu during Attack of the Clones, and he literally watched that happen, and he has a vendetta against Mace Windu. Eventually, in his later years, he would later go on to become a bounty hunter, of course. And then he ended up falling into the Sarlacc pit, like an idiot. But it wasn't until The Mandalorian Season 2 officially revealed, yeah, Boba's actually alive. He survived the Sarlacc pit, and now, with Fennec Shand, he now rules over Jabba the Hutt's former establishment. And that's the basic premise of the Book of Boba Fett. It's Boba trying to make a name for himself in the criminal underworld, ruling Mos Espa, which was the spot that Jabba the Hutt once ruled. But, obviously, of course, and all the trials and tribulations that come along with that. First of all, before I get into any real big complaints, I do want to mention a couple of things right off the top. One, the performances from everybody around are, obviously, of course, were solid. Temuera Morrison has a really great commanding presence as Boba Fett, and I do think the fact that with the material he's given, he was really good. Obviously, of course, the thing that most people remember is him just jumping on the landscape and going, like a panther. But he is still trying to give many dimensions and depth to the character of Boba Fett. And I do gotta appreciate the fact that he tried to stay true to that as much as he could. He even tried to ask Jon Favreau if he could cut down some of Boba's dialogue so that way he could be able to come across as more mysterious and less talkative. Which I totally get where he's coming from on that. Obviously, and of course, Ming-Na is great as Fennec Shand, especially in Episode 7. It proves why exactly she's one of the deadliest assassins in the Star Wars universe. And of course, Pedro Pascal is great as the Mandalorian. Of course, he is always fantastic, and I always love seeing him in stuff. Really looking forward to seeing him in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nicolas Cage. Yes, you will see a review on that one when it comes out in April. Really looking forward to that one. The visuals all around, of course, were really fantastic, and they were really, really solid. But that is come to expect with Star Wars and stuff like this. Like, the visuals, obviously, of course, were fantastic. From the practical monsters, to the sets, to the... Even the fact that they... Okay, obviously, of course, this is spoilers for the later episodes, but... It's clear the fact that in the year since we've gotten that digitally de-aged Luke Skywalker, they have improved on that technology a little bit more so than they have in the previous one. And I think the fact that it actually looks great. Obviously, of course, they actually hired the guy that did that deep fake, or something like that, they hired him at ILM, so of course, maybe he might have worked on this, so that was really cool. And I thought it was really interesting the fact that the idea behind this, it's a Star Wars crime drama. Obviously, of course, now the fact that Boba is now the head of Jabba's former criminal empire, obviously, of course, he has to learn how to make a name for himself because he's no longer a bounty hunter. And action sequences, of course, all around were fantastic. And all the directors involved did a really good job. Robert Rodriguez, who directed 3 episodes, he directed 1, 3, and 7, the finale. And, of course, we also have Steph Green, Kevin Tach... I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Bryce Dallas... And we even got some returning faces from The Mandalorian, like Bryce Dallas Howard and Dave Filoni, who, as previously mentioned, co-wrote his episode with Jon Favreau. Which does make sense because Ahsoka Tano ends up showing up in that episode, and she is played by Rosario Dawson. And Dave Filoni is going to be developing and writing a Ahsoka series with Rosario Dawson in the role, so, and it's set around the same time frame as The Mandalorian, so it does make sense. But this is where we get into some of my critiques with the show. The first 4 episodes of the show, I'll admit, while I did like them fine, they were not particularly engaging all that much. At least when it came to the stuff of Boba in the present day. When it came to the flashbacks of him stranded on the desert to Tatooine, and just after he escaped that Sarlacc pit. By the way, love the shot and how they established the fact that the way he comes out of the Sarlacc pit is exactly how Patton Oswalt describes it in that one episode of Parks and Rec. You Parks and Rec fans know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's almost panned in the exact same way. From starting out at the Twin Sons of Tatooine to panning down to the open outer rims of the Sarlacc pit, and then you see the gloved gauntlet of Boba reach through, and you see him pull himself out from the sand, and seeing that, yeah, he did live, he survived. And then, of course, you see his armor get stolen by Jawas, and then you just see him left for dead, and then you see him taken in by this Tusken Raider tribe, initially as a prisoner, but eventually he grows to be one of their own and whatnot. But surprisingly, that stuff was actually, I found, more engaging more than the stuff in the present day. And not only that, but I find it really sad that some of the more weaker episodes of the series were directed by Robert Rodriguez. Like, I actually think the weakest episode was episode 3, and he directed that. And it is really, really unfortunate because I love Robert Rodriguez. I love El Mariachi, I love Machete, I love the first Spy Kids at least. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love From Dusk Till Dawn. I think that movie is fantastic. So it is really unfortunate the fact that he directed probably the weakest episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. And he was an executive producer. And he was the one that helped to revitalize Boba's coolness with his episode of The Mandalorian Season 2. So it's like, what the heck happened? And then there is those final 3 episodes, 5, 6, and 7. Obviously, of course, those 3 were the best episodes of the whole series. No, without a doubt. But that's only because it shifted less from being about the Book of Boba Fett and more so The Mandalorian Season 3. In fact, many people have actually internally referred to this as Mandalorian Season 2.5. And I totally get why, because literally as soon as, like, episode 5, I believe, it's literally called Return of the Mandalorian. And Boba doesn't even show up once in that episode. Like, in episode 5 and 6 combined, I think he had, like, a total minute of one screen time. He only had a total 1 minute of screen time, and he didn't say a word. And those were the highest rated episodes out of the entire series. Obviously, of course, episode 7, I thought ended things off with ended it with a bang. I think it did a pretty decent job. Love the fact that you actually see Boba ride the Rancor into battle, and the ending basically just turns into that Rancor Rampage minigame from Kinect Star Wars, which I thought was a really nice touch. But it really was a shame the fact that arguably the best episodes of the Book of Boba Fett didn't focus on Boba Fett. Like, that didn't make any sense at all. But you know, I still liked them. I still thought it was great. And overall, I thought the show was okay. Obviously, of course, it's nowhere near upon the same quality as The Mandalorian, without a doubt. That goes without saying. And obviously, of course, there's also the big problem that because Boba is such an established character of the Star Wars universe, and he's been around for over 40 years now at this point, people are going to have different expectations about his first ever solo project. So obviously, you have all this hype riding into the show, and when fans realize that it's not what they wanted, they're going to be significantly disappointed, and they're going to boycott the show, say that it was absolute garbage, and blah, 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 and start harassing people on Twitter. That is not the way. But obviously, of course, given what this show is, for what it is worth, it is okay. It is not terrible, it is not great, but it gets its job. But it does what it does what it sets out to do, and it does it okay. Obviously, of course, people are going to have different opinions on that. Like, oh man, I felt the Cad Bane was underutilized and other things like that. But it's like, I'm just happy with the fact that he was even in it at all. And the fact that they got the same actor who played him in Clone Wars and Bad Batch, Corey Burton, to reprise his role, I thought that was really cool too. And that we do get to see a face-off between him and Boba, I thought that was really nice. But yeah, overall, the Book of Boba Fett, I think, is alright. My final rating for the series overall probably has to be along the lines of a 7 or 7.5. Like, it is good. I do recommend that you at least watch it once. But obviously, of course, you know, you're allowed to make your own opinion and come to your own conclusions on that front. So, yeah, that about does it for this video. Tune in next week when hopefully I will be reviewing Peacemaker, because the season finale is going to be coming out for that, and I can't wait for that, because Peacemaker's been fantastic. I'm going to go more about it into the actual video, but, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and, yeah, have a happy Super Bowl Sunday, because that's when I'm going to be uploading this, so, yeah, see you around.